Alrighty, I'm going to help you understand modes in music. What's the difference between a scale and a mode, basically? This may look like total nonsense right now, but it won't shortly. So, the major scale, it has no flat numbers. It's right down here. All I've done is put two of them back to back. Could have done just one of them. That's the minor scale. These different modes. There's the major scale. But to make this demonstration, I really need to have two octaves. Why are they called octaves? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The eighth one is where it starts all over. Okay, so now if we were to look at a piano and look at the key of C major, you'd notice there's no black note in between E and F, which in C major is 3 or 4. That means it's a half step, though these notes are smack next to each other, whereas there's a note in between 1 and 2. We call it flat 2. There's a note in between 2 and 3. We call it flat 3 or minor 3. You can see this is the minor scale up here. This has that note that we skipped here. All right, what's a W and an H? A W just means a whole step. It means skip a note. Half step means go straight to the next note. So 2 and flat 3 are right next to each other. But 2 and 3, there's a note in between, which is the flat 3. Okay, that is the rundown. So each scale or mode all has a different pattern of whole steps and half steps. You see I've written them here. And they're all different. Boom. Boom. And it seems like they're not related, but they are. And that's what I'm trying to show you. So let's start up here first. So I wrote in the major scale, it's 1 to high 1 in the major scale. That's kind of redundant, but I wanted to keep it consistent. The minor scale is 6 to 6 in the major scale. Now, what does that mean? The Mixolydian scale is 5 to the higher 5 in the major scale. Dorian mode, 2 to the higher 2. Okay, won't go over them all, but you see that they all have that definition, a different, if they're modes, a different whole step, half step formula, and a different number to the higher same number in the major scale definition. All right, let's make that make sense. So look here, I just made that purple. I'm gonna make it purple in a second because purple is 6, but really it starts out white, right? So this is just two of these, and I even put a comma to show you. This is the definition of a major scale in whole steps and half steps, but we need 2 of them in order to make sense of this. And same thing, here's the definition of whole steps and half steps in the minor scale, and here's 2 of them. We're going to delete these commas in a second. So now, what did we say minor scale was? It's 6 to 6 in the major scale. Okay, let's make some sense of that. So this isn't 1. This gets us to 2, right? Look down here. We're on 1. We kind of just declare it or find it after it was declared. And then the hard logic comes in on where we can kind of choose any key we want. We can make 1 anywhere. But once we've decided 1, now there's necessity in terms of where everything else is. Follows this pattern. Okay, so whole step isn't 1. Whole step really gets us to 2 if we're going in this direction. The next whole step would get us to 3. Then the half step gets us to 4. The next whole step gets us to 5. And then this whole step gets us to 6. So I'm going to color this one purple up here. So it gets us to 2, gets us to 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome. Color it purple. Now I'm going to drag this one to right after it. Because remember, 6, we start our formula after the first number, right? So if 6 is our first number, our next move is a whole step to 7. This is that. You can see these. This is not a new pattern. It's the same pattern. Delete the comma. All we did was start in a different place. That's why we can't just do this with one of these. We need it to repeat so we can find, so we can move up and not just have like, okay, there was a WH and a W the same. It's not just that, it's the whole thing. Cool. So hopefully that's starting to make sense. All of these formulas work the same way. If I start this one, that's 3 to 3. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to quickly style it and size it. 45. And then copy it and paste it. And delete these equals. Awesome. All right, turn this back white. This was 3 to 3, right? So whole step to 2, whole step to 3. That's 3. Color it yellow. Line this up with the next thing after that. Did it work? It works. That's what makes things modes. If this doesn't work when you do it, they're not modes of each other. Basically, anytime you have a scale, it's not just whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. If that was the case, then anywhere we started, we'd have the same formula because it's all the same thing. But we have this 2 whole steps, half steps, 3 whole steps, half step formula that repeats. Anywhere I start other than the first spot is going to give me a new formula. If I start here, I have a whole step, then a half step. That's already different. If I start here, I start with a half step. Already different. If I start here, I have 3 whole steps in a row. That's different than 2 whole steps, right? You get the idea. If I start on 5, 2 whole steps and a half step, that's the same. But then instead of it going 3 whole steps, it's just 2, and then the half step followed by another whole step, right? So they're all different. Every single time we start somewhere, we have a new pattern. But if we move them to move it over, we see that they line up because we're not just thinking up we're not just randomly coming up with these. We're coming up with these by starting somewhere else in the pattern that we have and seeing what our new pattern is. So they fit together like that. And then I'll just show you with the colors since I made them. This was starting from 6, right? So I'm gonna just drag this over here a bit, put 1 where 6 is. Whole steps, half steps, whole steps, whole steps, half steps. They're not lined up perfectly, but it is perfectly in order. So some people, when they think about the minor scale, think about it most of the time, I think, people think about it like this. I mean, you might call it a minor third, or you might just call it a third, but know that it's a minor third. But you're referring to basically the root of the scale, or the home note of the scale as 1, the tonic of the scale as 1. But some people don't. They just say, hey, I'm just going to play by the major scale, and when I'm in the minor scale, I'm basically going to consider home 6. 6 is what's going to resolve everything. 6 is home. 6 is the tonic. And you can see it's really just a difference in words. It's the same thing. You could argue that, that there's conceptual, one's better or something, but yeah, we can get into that later. I kind of think that it doesn't matter if you're thinking of 6 as your resolving number. It's a little weird, 1's our first number. Kind of makes sense that one resolves stuff. But regardless of which way we favor, we need to understand both of them, that they're the same thing. That's really what's going to give us the understanding. Alrighty, later.